What's going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon, and I got another one for you today. This video is going to be around the trade rumors that are going on with the team, because there are apparently trade rumors in abundance right now. So let's go ahead and get into that. And clearly I'll talk about this throughout, but I'll kind of do a little summation for you on my thoughts here. This regime, from my perspective, is doing everything in their power, trying as super hard to be as self-destructive as possible. They'll never say that. They'll, and I'm sure they believe the opposite. I'm sure that they believe they're doing the right things. But it couldn't be, again, from my perspective, frankly, I don't understand how other people don't see this, but from my perspective, it's pretty obvious and clear by the things that they're doing, that they're just like, I don't know. So, anyway, let's go ahead and just get into this, right? We'll talk about it throughout, but I really feel like this regime, from top to bottom, from Stephen Ross to the front office to the coaching staff and Brian Flores and everyone else, right? So I feel like they're really just trying as super hard as they possibly can to make things as difficult for themselves as possible, to create as much drama and controversy as possible, to whatever, right? Like, just so it's fucking mind-numbing. All right, so first off, this is from Tim Daniels at Bleacher Report. NFL trade rumors. Laremy Tunsil offers turned down by Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins have reportedly turned down trade offers for offensive tackle Laremy Tunsil ahead of the 2019 NFL season. Barry Jackson and Adam Beasley of the Miami Herald reported Saturday the Dolphins have informed Tunsil's camp there's no truth to rumors they are shopping the lineman. Miami selected the Ole Miss product with the 13th overall pick in the 2016 draft. He's proceeded to start 44 of a possible 48 regular season games across his first 3 NFL seasons. The Dolphins are widely expected to endure a rebuilding year in 2019. ESPN's Football Power Index ranked them as the NFL's worst team heading into the campaign, which has led to speculation about trades of veteran players for future assets. Tunsil said Wednesday the team is motivated to prove the doubters wrong. A big year, blah, 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 blah. So the 25-year-old Florida native would likely generate ample interest as the Dolphins did make him available on the trade market. He's a proven starter level talent, and he's under contract through 2020 after Miami exercised his 5th year. For now, the team is treating him more like a building block than a trading chip. Okay, so let's discuss that. First of all, based off of the information we have, it seems like they are not going to do that, right? Which is good. Completely agree with that. Here's why I agree with that. 1, he was our first round pick in 2016. That's a data point in the column of why you keep him. 2, he has proven throughout his college career and up to this point to be worth the price, worth the pick, and all of that, right? And he's just that caliber of a player, right? I mean, I don't know what else to say about that. He's the caliber, the production's there, so on and so forth, right? And of course, he can't be blamed for the faults of the rest of the offensive line. So that does not go in the column against him, right? You can't say the offensive line woes are his fault, because he's held up his end of the bargain to the absolute best of his ability, which has been pretty damn good. And then finally, he's the only fucking guy on your offensive line that you know for sure. Like, He's the only building block that you have on the offensive line. The only one. The only definitive one. maybe Michael Dieter, maybe Shaq Calhoun, maybe, Jesse Davis or Isaiah Prince or Zach Stewart. Maybe one of these guys at some point will be, a reliable, consistent player at their position that can anchor that position down and for sure. But none of them are that right now. Tunsil's the only one. That would be the absolute most, one of the I'm about to say the absolute most foolish thing that they could do, but they've done a lot of super foolish things already, and they looked primed to do some actually even more foolish things. But we'll get to that in a minute. But that would absolutely not benefit you this year. That would not benefit you in future years at all. That would actually hurt you tremendously. Not only would they be ignoring or neglecting the offensive line, but then they would be going out of their way to make it worse. And for what? Future draft capital? First of all, we do actually have a decent amount for next year. Would I like more? Sure. But there has to be a proper balance to things, right? And keeping him far outweighs getting rid of him. Even if you were to get a first round pick next year, and first of all, I don't think a team would do this. I think this is a bit exorbitant. But if a team was to say, I'll give you my first round pick in 2020 and my first round pick in 2021, I would still say that it's not worth it. Because he is a proven commodity and the only building block that you have on the most decimated position group on your team. You've already drafted the dude. Show a little bit of loyalty and shit too. Like that might, help in your, effort to put together a culture, right? A proper culture. Cause anyway, so, but it wouldn't make any fucking sense. Plus, I wouldn't trust them to use those first round picks on offensive linemen to fucking shore that up anyway. So just none of that makes any fucking sense. But so far it seems like, in that regard, they are not doing that. So I'm not saying that they're being stupid yet because they haven't done it. If they do it, I'm saying that would be a tremendously stupid thing to do. And so right now I'm giving them credit for not doing that, but I'm telling you, if they do that, I will be very quick to rail against it. But there are further trade rumors outside of Laramie Tunsil. So far, they seem to be doing the right thing in that regard. But there's more. So from Timothy Rapp, also at Bleacher Report, Dolphins trade rumors. Kiko Alonso, Kenny Stills, and more on block. The Miami Dolphins are reportedly putting several veterans on the trade block. According to Barry Jackson and Adam H. Beasley of the Miami Herald, safety Rashad Jones and linebacker Kiko Alonso are among those who have been available. A high-ranking league official said Saturday that he doubts Miami would find a trade partner for Alonso or Kenny Stills because teams would wait for them to be cut. Okay, there's a lot in this. So we're going to stop right there for a second and break that down a little bit. And we're going to go a little bit player to player. So, Rashad Jones. None of these guys should be cut or traded. Okay? And the potential draft capital you could get and the potential cap savings you could get are vastly dwarfed by the other things. Right? It's not even close. It's not even fucking close. So let's talk about this. Rashad Jones. He's been here for 8-9 years. We drafted him. He's a Pro Bowl player. He has proven to fucking put in blood, sweat, and tears for this fucking franchise. And the production is there to back up his work. He's a leader on this team. He's highly respected. All of those things. Not to mention, him included though, to be fair, your safeties are a bit banged up right now. Walt Aikens and TJ McDonald are also a bit banged up right now and haven't been playing. So why would you get rid of a guy who you drafted, who for years has put in the work and has proven the production, who's a leader on your team? Why would you get rid of him just to create a hole? Right? We've had an issue on this team of having adequate quality starters, let alone depth. So now you just want to create more holes. You just want to fucking, with, again, a proven dude. I mean, Rashad Jones should retire as a Dolphin. He should never see another team, ideally. The team should show some loyalty. They should show some, you know, what's the word? Reciprocation, right? And now, to be fair, they did pay the guy, which was good, but relationships don't just, you know, like, that's not it, right? They're continuous. So, like, you gotta it's a continuous back and forth, a give and take, right? So they can't just be like, oh, well, we paid you, so that's all we owe you. No, it's a continuous effort. It's a continuous relationship, right? So why would you create that hole? What's the point of that? There's no reason for that. Absolutely no reason for that. You need him on the team. You need to have that fucking, because you expect him to be in the starting lineup, or at least the rotation at strong safety. Him and TJ might fucking flip-flop a bit. But then you also need depth. Even if theoretically he wasn't the starter, you need depth. And you know, with Rashad Jones on the team, that he's going to fucking produce for you. But then stuff like this, man, then it just adds animosity and tension too, right? You know, we live in a world where, you know, equality is a major fight across the board in everything, right? And these NFL franchises, particularly after the invent of free agency, and with the endless, boundless greed that they apparently have shown and proven that, you know what, we don't care about being loyal to our players. It doesn't matter if we drafted them. It doesn't matter if, you know, they've produced on the field for years. It doesn't matter if they're a leader. None of that matters. You know, we're just gonna fucking, because of our own personal fucking emotions and feelings, or because of our bottom line, the money. Like, those are not good fucking priorities to have when making decisions in anything in life. You know? And it's been proven throughout human history that when you make decisions against people and for money, in the interest of money over people, and when you make decisions that are based off of your personal feelings and emotions over other people and the greater good, well, everything goes into chaos, disaster, and ruin. Kiko Alonso, another dude. We didn't draft him, but a proven veteran with the production. I mean, goddamn it, last year he led the team in tackles. He had like 3 forced fumbles and like a couple interceptions. Like, goddamn, like, and his tackles, he was over 100, led the team, blah blah, right? Like, proven guy, veteran, leader on the team. And again, to be fair, he's a little banged up, but so is the rest of your squad, especially the linebackers. So why would you get rid of a proven veteran guy like that who you know is going to produce? Why would you create that animosity within your team? Even just, you know, dude, Brian Flores is going to lose this team. I don't know if he ever had it. I don't know if he had time to get it, right? You know, there were reports that like everybody's bought in and stuff, but frankly, I find that hard to believe, if only because it's such a short time. Who the fuck can come in and just after a month or two just, you know, have everybody 100% convinced and bought in? No, that's impossible, dude, especially on a fucking football team. So I don't know that I buy that. But even if he did, by some magical fucking metric, manage that, he's gonna fucking lose this team very quick with the way that he's acting, with the way that he's already alienating people. Like, it's absolutely fucking ridiculous. And then, you know, people are talking about oh, okay, well, you know, Sam McGuavian's coming on. Okay. So even if he, you know, usurps him for the starting lineup, you still need fucking quality depth. Like, why are you going to get rid of guys when your linebacking unit is already banged up, you know, and I mean, it's super illogical. It's super illogical. You're creating an unnecessary hole and unnecessary tensions within your organization. And then, oh my God, do not even get me on Kenny Stills. If Kenny Stills, I don't care. It does not matter. It doesn't matter what business reasons you have or financial excuses. None of that fucking matters. Okay? There's absolutely no excuse to get rid of Kenny Stills until, at the very least, until his contract ends. Just off of the optics alone. Just off of the optics alone. Right? So I had this is relevant. So I had a comment on my last video. At the end of the day, this is from Just Do It. He put, at the end of the day, I want to win. Brian Flores has a job to do. Not all black people think the same or act the same, obviously. We live in America with free speech, clearly. Why nobody wants to talk about Tim Tebow? Question mark. He got kicked out of the league also, but for not being black because he walked with God, and for being a believer in Jesus, he was deemed a distraction. Okay, well, some of that is actually just not true, but here was my response. In my response, I obviously talked about the Tim Tebow thing a bit, but this is more on the topic of Brian Flores. But here's my response. I want to win too, but I don't compromise my morals for anything. I never said he couldn't say what he wants. He is free to do that. But I am free not to like him if I see fit. And I'm also free to disagree with him on things. Clearly, he can say whatever he wants. I never said that he shouldn't be able to say those things if he feels them. I just said that from my perspective, at the very least, he's just categorically wrong. At the very least, from my perspective. I morally and fundamentally disagree with his stance and approach to Stills' response to Ross, and thus far, I've overwhelmingly disagreed with his professional decisions related to the team. As far as Tim Tebow goes, he got kicked out of the NFL because he was an immature kid with substance abuse and partying problems. He's been having a tough time finding a landing spot after the fact because of similar issues. He was a distraction because his off-field issues bled into on-field production and how he conducted himself within the organization, which they did not find favorable. He did all that to himself. By juxtaposition here, though, Colin Kaepernick, on the other hand, got fired, essentially, and blackballed because he was a minority that dared to make a simple and nonviolent statement against systemic negligence, abuse, incarceration, and murder of black folks. I don't think he will. I certainly hope he doesn't, and I wrote this yesterday, I believe. I wrote this 11 hours ago. So earlier this morning, I wrote it this morning after I got done with work. I drive for Lyft or whatever, so I was out late, but I wrote it this morning. This is what I said then. I don't think he will. I certainly hope he doesn't. But Brian Flores is cutting Kenny Stills away from me being completely done with him. I'm already done with Stephen Ross, and as long as he doesn't cross a fundamental line with me, then I'll focus on the body of work he puts in together as a coach and evaluate him accordingly. If he cut Kenny Stills or traded him, oh my God. Oh my God. Then he should be fired immediately. Right along with fucking Stephen Ross. Because then it couldn't be more obvious that it's a black man in a position of power who has been given that power by a rich male, white male, a billionaire, and then, like a fucking corporate sellout, establishment sellout, not only decides to side with that white male billionaire, but then decides to be punitive against you know, the person on the other side of that conflict, i.e. Kenny Stills. Oh my God. Would that be the worst, absolute worst decision he can make? Let alone the fact, like I said, just optics alone. That doesn't even take into consideration Kenny Stills is also a proven veteran with a production. He's also one of the most highly respected players on your team, if not the most respected player on your team. Not only does it weaken your unit now and for the future, not only has he won the fucking community service award from the fucking organization the past 2 years. Oh my God, would that be the biggest fucking mistake? Now, that mistake has not been made yet, but clearly these aren't coming out of nowhere. So clearly the thought is there. I mean, even the thought of it is inexcusable. Even the fact that this is a rumor is inexcusable. But facts do matter, and it hasn't actually happened. But this motherfucker is teetering on such a thin line. If he cuts or trades Kenny Stills, done. Done. You're a piece of shit in my mind at that point. And because it has nothing to do, at that point it has absolutely nothing to do with football and him as a coach. My last line there. As long as he doesn't cross a fundamental line with me, then I'll focus on the body of work he puts together as a coach. Fuck the personal shit. Fuck the, you know, whatever. As a coach, professionally speaking, and I'll evaluate him accordingly. Obviously, I disagree with most of what he's done so far, and I would disagree with that move from a business and professional perspective as well. But that aside, that absolutely crosses a very, very firm, fundamental line. And at that point, you're just a terrible person. Because you're siding, you know, indirectly. I mean, no, it's not even indirect. It's direct as fuck. Just because you're the third person down the line. And what I mean by that is Donald Trump is clearly the outward racist, bigot, misogynist, all that is in a position of power to have an effect over millions of people's lives and doesn't give a shit about that and negatively does affect those people's lives, puts in the policy, implements the policy. But then you have Stephen Ross, who apparently isn't a racist himself, but doesn't have a problem with the racist policies of Donald Trump. No, that makes you a racist. I'm sorry. I don't give a fuck if you have an organization. To me, that at this point is just a front. And no, so you're a racist. But then if you're the fucking black coach that got hired by that dude, and then you're siding with him against a minority player, and then if you, and then, you know, all the other disrespectful shit aside, if you then decide that you're going to be punitive and cut him, which, sure, Kenny Stills has made millions of dollars, and I'm pretty sure he's a sensible guy and has saved it and he'd be all right. But that's his job. That's his livelihood. His family. Like, you don't do that. That's just sick. Alright, let me just finish this. Additionally, there are also questions about the future of Raekwon McMillan, whose role will be impacted by Sam McGravian's development. Dude, but that's stupid. I didn't even get to finish that paragraph because I got so much to say. We drafted him. Does he need to improve and get better? Yes. But he still showed some good things, some potential, some upside, and we need the fucking depth. Like, why would you create more holes? You want to get rid of 2 linebackers because one on your depth chart is moving up and playing well. Oh my God. What about that is a reasonable way to build your fucking team for now or the future? While the Dolphins would not cut McMillan, the team likely would listen if there's an appealing trade offer. I would say that out of all of these guys, he might be the one that you can make a most reasonable case. But, I mean, you know, in light of everything else, in the greater context, I mean, like I said, just even the rumors of all of this. Because, you know, two of these guys we drafted, you know, all of these guys have shown, you know, good to great production for you. You know, a few of them are leaders on your team. Just the rumors of these things, it's counterproductive, and it doesn't serve the purpose of creating, you know, a healthy, cohesive chemistry within your organization between your players and coaches. I mean, per that report, Jones has been made available since he isn't expected to have an every down role in Miami's defensive backfield. His cap hits of 17.2 this season, 15.6 next season, and 14.5 in 2021 make Jones an expensive role player for the Dolphins. I don't necessarily disagree with that. But again, the dude was drafted here. He's put in years of blood, sweat, and his body on the line and proven the production. Plus, even you need the depth. And sure, he might not be a full starter on the field every play, but you're going to need that rotation, much like you would on, let's say, the defensive line, the interior, or the whole defensive line. Having a rotation there is good to help keep guys fresh and so on and so forth, especially if your defense is going to have to fucking be on the field all the time because your offense is inept and inadequate. And his numbers drop each year. It's not like they go up. But guess what will go up? The cap. Because it goes up every fucking year. So, the money is not even really a thing. Let his contract expire. At least show the loyalty, you know, to hold up the agreement that you made with him. That you'll pay him for these next 3 years. I mean, I'm flabbergasted by these things. And how anybody could think that this is a beneficial thing or how this is going to work out right. Aguavian and Jerome Baker, meanwhile, are expected to cut into Alonso's playing time. Oh, okay. But we need at least 3 linebackers on the field at a time. If not 4, considering the fact that we might actually sometimes be in a 3-4 defense. And then, of course, you need depth. So, you're saying that Kiko Alonso and Raekwon McMillan were your starters. Okay. Jerome Baker, he got plenty of playing time last year and expected to have more. And actually, frankly, was already kind of a starter. But let's say you considered him as a backup guy, and now Sam Aguavian, since he wasn't here last year, let's say he starts off as a backup guy. But let's say, okay, so those 2 backups play well enough and so on and so forth and are available enough to say, okay, now they've elevated themselves up to be the starters. The logical thing is not to then decide, oh, well, you know, let's just cut our backups. What? We're going to cut or trade our backups. Why? One of those, Kiko Alonso, again, a proven veteran with the production, last year led the team in tackles, over 100 tackles, like 3 forced fumbles, I think it was. I hope I'm getting these stats correct. It's somewhere around this ballpark, though, and at like 1 or 2 interceptions. Bruh. So if Aguavian and Baker are playing better than that, okay, sure, they should be on the field. But if the quality backups, if that's the quality level of quality you have at backup, as your backup, or as your rotational guy, fuck yeah, I want that. Why would you get rid of him? As for Stills, it's unclear his if his vocal criticisms of team owner Stephen Ross for holding a fundraiser for President Donald Trump, or his criticisms of Jay-Z and Roc Nation's partnership with the NFL, despite the hip-hop mogul's support of Colin Kaepernick in the past, have anything to do with his potentially being on the trade block. Okay, I'm sorry, but you're an idiot if you don't see that that is at the very least relevant. Am I saying it's the only reason? No. Am I saying it's the main reason? No. But goddamn it, it's fucking there. Especially with the way Brian Flores has been backing Stephen Ross and so on and so forth. It's clearly a part of the context. It's clearly a factor in the equation. No matter how much anybody wants to deny it, it's clearly there. And it's clearly part of this. You cannot, no matter how hard you try, there's no way you can separate these things at this point. Wow. It wasn't a great sign when head coach Brian Flores opened Tuesday's practice with 8 straight Jay-Z songs, though he said he wasn't trolling the veteran wideout. Okay, just real quick, it's been framed like that in a lot of these reports that he was just trying to troll, but this is from the media's perspective. But this is the media trying to defend Brian Flores, even though it's on its face seeming as if though they're criticizing him, right? Because he says it wasn't a great sign that head coach Brian Flores did that, but then he's kind of like, but you know what? He was just trolling him. It's not a big deal, right? First of all, no, it's just flat out super disrespectful. Okay? It's not just trolling. But then his excuse wasn't even better. It was a challenge to Kenny to perform regardless of what is going on outside, Flores said per Cameron Wolf of ESPN. I would say, and I said this to him, he hasn't performed up to that level over the course of training camp, or as I've seen. Bullshit, bro. I don't buy that for a fucking second. Not a fucking second. Because, again, Kenny Stills' track record, his work ethic. Like, get the fuck out of here, bro. Like, it's just fucking excuses. And regardless of what was going on outside, that is such a weak sauce fucking excuse. If you don't want him to focus on the outside noise, why take action that's gonna amplify the situation? Who in their right fucking mind thinks that after, because of his political activism and because of his morals, he makes the conscious decision to speak out against the clearly blatant support for the racist, bigoted president that we have, anti-Semitic, misogynist, xenophobic president that we have. When he decides to speak out against that, why would you think that the logical response in any sense, but just sticking to his reasoning, if you wanted to drown out the outside distraction, why would you think the logical response was then to just all up in his face and in front of the entire team and everything? Like if he did want to scold him, right? Because, and he even scolded, Kenny Stills for saying, oh, you know what? You shouldn't have made those remarks in public. You should have done it behind closed doors. I disagree with that in that context, in that case, because then that doesn't solve the fucking problems. He's speaking out against very systemic and root fundamental problems and discriminations and disenfranchisement and so on and so forth in this country. And against somebody who's clearly supporting that, whether he says otherwise or not. But then in front of the entire team, he'll go and make this blatant statement. Aside from his comments about how Kenny Stills needs to be a quote-unquote company man, which again to me just says you need to bow your head and do what we say. That's how that translates, right? Aside from his actual comments, you're sending a very clear message to Kenny Stills in front of the team. And then him, of course, that would then invoke his response of playing Nas at his locker. But why would you think that that is going to quell or squash the distraction or the noise? That's stupid and super illogical. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. All it does is add to the fire. God, it's fucking maddening. Alright, well look. That I think is enough for now. That's my perspective on these fucking... on these trade rumors. Look, man, this regime from top to bottom is losing me super quick. I'm super done with Stephen Ross. Honestly, at this particular point in time, from my perspective, and with the information I have, I just feel bad more than anything for Chris Greer that he has to be fucking, you know, in this mess. But he is one of the head decision makers too. And he hasn't been, you know, he hasn't said anything against it. So, you know, there's that. But Brian Flores, like I said, I mean, he's certainly, in my perspective, doesn't hold high regard. From my perspective, doesn't hold high regard. I have lost so much respect for him. And I disagree with the vast majority of his football decisions. But literally, cutting Kenny Stills or trading him, if one of those things happens, unequivocally, I'm done with him. I'm just, you know, much like our country and much like our political system and our government, I think that what is required is a fundamental root revolution. From the ground up, we need to just fucking, you know, we need to take sweeping systemic action to correct all of this shit. And I feel like we're pretty close to that with this team. You know, and most of the time people think about, well, okay, that means firing the coaching staff or firing, you know, the maybe the front office guys. No, I want everybody gone. Stephen Ross too. That motherfucker needs out. I'm done with this shit. Done with these motherfuckers. That's it. That's it. And look, I mean, obviously I don't know for sure, but I venture to guess that the vast majority of things that I've been saying for months now, they will prove me right on over the course of this year. And yeah, so anyway, we'll see. That's how I'm gonna end it, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and get up out of here. I hope you guys enjoy, you know, the different perspective, you know, because I know that, you know, I have a side and I have a perspective that almost nobody talks about, at the very least, when it comes to, you know, mainstream media, when it comes to the other podcasters and YouTubers, so on and so forth. So I hope you guys at the very least do, you know, enjoy the and so on and so forth, whether you know, believe the things that I do or not. Hopefully I can, you know, enlighten some people and so on and so forth, whatever. You know, but my big thing is just the facts, right? The truth, the data, reality, context, all of that shit. So that's my main priority, and just doing a good quality show for you guys. And so I hope you guys like that. I hope you appreciate it. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comment section. And of course, as always, make sure you follow me on Twitter at Dillon Tartaro. And with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Fins up.